Good evening, I am fresh off of a media preview of the Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser. It was only just a 4-hour preview that I got, but we are going to be staying on the Star Cruiser in mid-March, so I'm excited to get the full experience. But what I wanted to do in this video is kind of go over some questions that I had that were answered on this trip out to get a little preview of it. So I just kind of wanted to go over 10 questions that I had and give you guys the answers, because I think maybe you guys might have some of the same questions that I did, because looking at all the information of the Galactic Star Cruiser, it is confusing. Like, there's a lot happening for sure. So let's jump into it. So the very first question that I've seen repeatedly over and over again is it worth it? And it's an understandable question because this is a more expensive experience. So for example, Disney gives an example itinerary because the price of the Galactic Star Cruiser changes depending on the time of year, depending on how in demand the experience is, and also how many people in your party. So just an example, 2 guests per cabin, you could look at spending $4,800 for a 2-night, 2-day experience. So like I said, it is on the pricier side, and that is just for the base cabin. There are suite options, like upgrade options for bigger rooms and things like that, and depending on the time of year, depending on when you come, the price could go up from there. So a lot of people are wondering, is it worth it? And I think that depends on you personally. So if you're the type of person that really enjoys Star Wars, somebody that like cosplays, has flown out of their state to go to a Star Wars convention, has been to all of the movies, goes to the world premiere or goes to the midnight premiere of the new movies, just like somebody that's really into Star Wars, I think that this experience is for you. Because what this experience does, and you notice I keep calling it an experience. I'm not calling it a hotel, I'm not calling it, they kind of call it a simulated cruise, but I'm leaning on the experience factor of it, because what this does is this takes you and puts you into the Star Wars story. You're going to board the Halcyon, which is the name of the Star Cruiser, and you immediately become a part of the story. Like, you are interacting with characters, you are doing missions, you are looking through your data pad, you are in the story, and what you do in your story changes the outcome of what happens next. And you can pick, you could say, oh, I want to be part of the Resistance, I want to be part of the First Order, I just want to kind of like hang out with the smugglers and just be in the underground. And you can change that throughout your experience too. So you could like start out on the First Order and then flip and go to the Resistance halfway through. And I think that makes it a really unique and interesting experience. So if that is something that sounds like something you'd be interested in, then yeah, I think it would be worth it. Now, if you are already questioning this, like, is it worth it? I'm not that much of a Star Wars fan, then it's probably not worth it. And this also isn't a Disney vacation. You're not going to Star Cruiser and then like going to the parks. There is an excursion to Batuu where you go to Hollywood Studios and you like go to the parks. You go to Hollywood Studios, but that's not the main point of this. The main point of this is putting you in the Star Wars story. So when you plan your vacation on the Star Cruiser, you're not planning like Magic Kingdom or Epcot. You would go to Star Cruiser and experience it in its entirety and then transfer to another hotel, and that is where your park day begins. Your actual Disney vacation would begin at a different state in that. Or this might just be your Disney vacation. You come down for 2 days, 2 nights, and you just go to Star Cruiser and you never set foot, except for your one trip to Hollywood Studios, never set foot in any other Disney parks. That could be something that happens. So, but I will say this. Like I said, we are staying in March, and Jen is staying, and she is not the hugest Star Wars fan. She liked The Mandalorian. She didn't see anything else. I don't think she watched any of the other movies. And so we will get a true experience from somebody that's not like a gigantic Star Wars fan as to whether or not it was worth it or not, for somebody that's just kind of like a casual Star Wars fan. In my opinion, I think that it could be worth it, because like, if you are interested in becoming part of a story, like, it'll still be entertaining to be a part of the story, but like, you might not know all the character names, and you might not really understand the storyline as intensely as somebody that has seen all the movies and is like a super fan. So I don't know. We'll kind of touch back on is it worth it thing after we have our stay in mid-March. So that kind of brings me to my next question: is like, how deep into it do you have to get? Do you have to wear a costume all the time? And the answer to that is no. You don't have to always wear a costume. They want you to be a part of the experience. So like, yeah, if you're wearing a costume, you kind of feel like you're more in story, but you don't have to. You don't have to participate in any of the anything. You can just sit back and relax and watch other people participate. But I think that you would get the most out of it if you do participate. And the one thing that's kind of interesting to me is that it's more of an extrovert experience. So like when you go and you participate in the entire story, you will have to interact with other guests that are with you that might not be part of your, immediate family or immediate party. You might have to meet new friends and bring them into the story and maybe like sabotage them or help them out, depending on which way you're going. And, you'll see characters around. You'll see various aliens and alien species that you'll have to interact with. So although you can be an introvert and do this experience, I think that the extroverts will get more out of it. Somebody that's more like outgoing and willing to actually like dive headfirst into the story. And I think that it does make it a family experience too, because in my opinion, kids are more willing to just like be a part of it and like get into it. And that in turn will like kind of bring the parents around too. Like, oh, my kids are having fun. They're like interacting with the characters. Let me get into it too. So you don't have to always wear a costume. And there are rules to the costume. So like no weapons. You can't bring a blaster. You can't have the blade on your lightsaber. You can have the hilt like on your belt, but you can't have the blade on it. The only time that you're able to have a blade on a lightsaber and use it is in the lightsaber training, which they provide the lightsabers for you in that specific instance. Also, you don't have to buy your costumes ahead of time. There is a store on board the ship, the Chandrila collection, where you can go in and you can buy the costumes that you would like. And maybe you show up in like normal Star Wars shirts on day one, and then you buy your outfits, and then you can really like show your colors and like show your allegiances and that sort of thing on day two. So yeah, you don't have to wear a costume if you don't want to. Like for me, example, we have our stay in March and I haven't bought any sort of costumes or anything like that. I don't know if I'm going to. I might just show up in like my normal clothes. But also be prepared for that too. If you're like looking for it to be super immersive and like all the guests are wearing costumes, that might not be the case. Like there might be somebody just in like a t-shirt and shorts, which is fine because like, who knows what aliens were in a galaxy far, far away. So the next question I thought was something that was really interesting. It was something that was asked by a lot of people, and it kind of ties back into the first question that I answered with, the question is, can you go outside and is there a pool? And so the answer to the first part of it is yes, you can go outside. They have an area that's called a climate simulator, so you can go outside, and it really is outside. You go outside so you can feel what the temperature is like, if it's raining or what's happening outside, because all of the windows inside of the Galactic Star Cruiser are actual screens. So there are no windows where you can just like look outside. You're looking into space because you're on a cruise in space. So they've created an area that is a climate simulator so that you can go outside and experience what the ambient temperature is for when you have your port excursion down to Batuu. Get you ready, like if it's raining, you need to have your rain gear on and stuff like that. And that's something that I thought was pretty interesting, is that was something that a lot of people were asking. The other thing was, is there a pool? And the answer is no, there's not a pool. And I think that is because your day is so packed with stuff to do that's like Star Wars that you wouldn't have time to use a pool. This isn't a relaxing vacation. It's like I said, it's not your typical Disney hotel vacation. You're going for an experience. You're not going to stay at a hotel, relax, sit by the pool, read a book. You're going to be involved in the Star Wars story. So you can sit back and watch, and you don't have to participate in anything. But like I said, I feel like you will really get the full experience by getting in there not by relaxing by a pool. Another question that I saw a lot was about the food, and the food on the Galactic Star Cruiser is super unique. What they tried to do is they tried to make it so that it was more space feeling, like you really felt like you were getting space food. Although the food does have tastes and flavors that you're used to, it might not look like something that you've ever seen before. And so the question that I saw a lot about the food was, what if you have food allergies? What if you're a vegan? What if you're a picky eater? And the best way that I can answer that is that this is still a Disney experience. And so Disney is really good about accommodating allergies. So if you have a specific allergy that's not a very common allergy, you do have to give them advance notice for like 7 to 14 days ahead of time. Say, hey, I'm coming on Galactic Star Cruiser, here are my allergies, and they will accommodate you. If you just have like, if you're vegan, they have those items on the menu already. So they do take into account the most common food allergies and food preferences ahead of time. And so those items are already available and easily requested while you're on your cruise. So like vegan items are just on the menu. Gluten-free, I think you would have to request that, but they do have those options available. But as far as picky eaters, they do have like more adventurous foods, like really colorful things and things that look like something you might not normally eat. And then they have normal things, like they have tip yip, which we're used to from Galaxy's Edge, which is just fried chicken. Like, you know, it's just fried chicken. So they just give it a Star Wars-y type name. So they do have things like that for more picky eaters. Like, it's basically chicken fingers at that point. Another question that I saw was, are you going to see characters that you are familiar with? Because they've been announcing all of these characters that are new to the storyline, new to the Star Wars universe that we've never met before, like Captain Keevan and Lieutenant Croy. Those type of people are people that we've never met before in the Galactic universe or in the Star Wars universe. But they do also have characters on the Galactic Star Cruiser that you're very familiar with. Chewbacca's on there. Rey is on there. Kylo Ren is on there. Like, you're not going to be in Stormtroopers. Of course, there'll be Stormtroopers on there. But you're not going to be overwhelmed with characters that you don't know who they are or how you're going to follow them or what's going on. There will be new characters, but there will also be familiar characters. So it'll kind of like put you in a new direction, but then kind of draw you back into the story that you know and that you're used to. Something else that I found out the answer to was about ECVs. And so you are allowed to drive ECVs onto the Star Cruiser, and you're allowed to have them on the Star Cruiser. The only thing that you're not allowed to do is you're not allowed to park them in the hallway or in your cabin. So there's special ECV parking on each floor that you'll have to leave the ECV in overnight and just walk to your room or use a push wheelchair or something like that to get back to your room. They do have wheelchair accessible rooms, so if you are in a powered wheelchair or if you're just in a wheelchair, you don't have to worry about leaving that out in the hallway. That can come into your room and that can go everywhere on the Star Cruiser as well. So here's one that I thought was kind of an uncommon question is, what about tipping? Like, what do you do for tipping? Is tipping included? Because they're kind of relating this to a cruise ship, like a Star Wars cruise, simulated cruise. And I know that at the end of a Disney cruise, you get envelopes and you fill them out with your tips and you put money in there and stuff like that for your room attendant, for your server. The way that it works on the Star Cruiser is all of your tips for food service are included, but there are a few tips that are not included. So when you first arrive, there's not a parking lot. You have to valet your car. And so you should tip your valet. That's something that's not included. And then you should also tip your housekeeping staff. So the people that have been keeping your room clean, making sure you have towels and things like that, those tips are not included in the price of the Galactic Star Cruiser. So if you would like to, or if you choose to tip those positions, you would have to do so on your own. Now the next few questions kind of all play off each other and all kind of like run into each other. On the itinerary for the Star Cruiser, you have a port adventure into Batuu. Batuu is located inside of Disney's Hollywood Studios. And if you are just going to Hollywood Studios, you need a ticket and you need a reservation to get in. But if you are staying on the Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser, your admission to Disney's Hollywood Studios is included in the price that you paid to book the experience. So that also means that you do not need to have reservations to get into Hollywood Studios, and you don't need a separate ticket to get into Hollywood Studios. But on your itinerary, you have a specified time that you're supposed to go to Hollywood Studios. However, there is nothing tying you down to the itinerary. You can spend as much time in Hollywood Studios as you want. You can spend as much time in Batuu as you want. You can skip the excursion altogether and you can just stay aboard the Star Cruiser and just try to like experience more of the local atmosphere on the Star Cruiser. The only like caveat to that is the transport back and forth between the Star Cruiser and Batuu runs continuously until 4 p.m. So you need to get back to the Star Cruiser by 4 p.m., which is exactly like a regular cruise. When you have a shore excursion, there is a specific time that you have to get back in order for the ship to leave. Same thing with Star Cruiser. You go down to Batuu and you can go through and play around in Batuu, but you got to make sure you're back on that last transport at 4. So another question was, what is included in the cost of the Star Cruiser? So like, not only do you get the immersive experience where you're going in and it's like stepping into live theater, interacting with all the characters. You have your room, of course, your cabin. You also get all of your meals are included. So you get a 2-night stay in a cabin or suite, ongoing immersive and interactive entertainment where choices determine your experience. So like I said, you are basically, it's like a choose your own adventure. You're in charge of how much of the story you're involved in. Food and beverages on the Star Cruiser, excluding alcohol and specialty beverages, and a quick service meal at Docking Bay 7 or other select locations at Hollywood Studios. So that means that breakfast, lunch, and dinner are included while you're staying on the Galactic Star Cruiser. So breakfast and lunch are a buffet style, unless you're eating lunch on Batuu. That's just like Docking Bay 7, which we've done plenty of videos about the food at Docking Bay 7. We'll put a link to a few of those in the description down below. And dinner is in the Crown of Corellia dining room. And the way that it was described in every presentation that I've been to over the last few days is high end. They keep describing the dinner as high end dining. So I'm very excited to experience the full menu when we come back for our cruise in March. But just the descriptions and what we've seen so far, very excited. Valet parking is also included, but like I said, if you'd like to tip the valet drivers, that's something that you can do. That is not included in your cost of the Galactic Star Cruiser. And then you also get a exclusive Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser Magic Band. Magic Bands are huge collector items themselves, so it's pretty neat that you're getting an exclusive one just for staying on that Star Cruiser. Something else that wasn't actually a question that I had going into this experience, but something that was answered was, when does this all take place? Like, in the vastness of the Star Wars universe, where we have this storyline that's been continuing for years and years and years, where does this particular experience take place? And it takes place between The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. So if you can kind of imagine the place in between those two movies, that's where you are when you step foot into the Galactic Star Cruiser. And like I said, the people and the characters on this Star Cruiser are aware of the characters from the movies. So like, if you go in there and you're talking about Luke Skywalker, you're talking about Leia Organa, you're talking about Rey, they will know who you're talking about depending on which side you're on. You know, if you're siding with the First Order, you can talk to them about Kylo Ren. If you're siding on the Resistance side, you can talk to them about Rey and Poe and Finn and things like that. Which is, it's very neat to be that far into the experience. So something else that I found out that wasn't actually a question that I had, but I thought it was really interesting, is that when you take your shore excursion to Batuu, whatever you do on Batuu, like if you ride Rise of the Resistance, or if you try to like smuggle some coaxium on Millennium Falcon, that action plays into your story on the Galactic Star Cruiser. So like, if you smuggle coaxium and you head back to the ship, they'll know that you did that you participated in this smuggling activity, and like that you did it or that you didn't do it. It's like mind-boggling how deep it goes and how story-driven this entire experience is, and like how many different aspects can like affect the story, and the fact that it's actual characters, like live characters, will follow your story from the ship to Batuu. Like, the characters won't come with you, but like they will be aware of what you did on Batuu during your shore excursion when you get back to the ship. And I think that that's really special and really interesting. And like I said, we'll be back in March to experience this fully, just to like see how it plays out and like how far into the story we can get. We'll also see how it goes with a toddler. Like, we're going to be bringing Jackson with us. They say that the Star Cruiser is for all ages, but I do know that there are some things that Jackson can't do. Like, take for instance, he cannot participate in the lightsaber training because that is for ages 7 and up. So I don't know how far into the story he'll be able to get, or like how interested he will be in it, because he knows who Baby Yoda is and he knows who Yoda is, but he doesn't know anything else about the Star Wars universe. So this trip in March that we're coming back to experience the full Star Cruiser, I am very excited for it, and I'm very interested to see how it turns out and like what happens. And I think that like, I don't know, stay tuned for it, because I'm very excited to see, after learning what I've learned here, I'm very excited to see how it plays out in an actual like real life cruise. So hopefully this video answered some of the questions that you had about the Star Cruiser. Hopefully maybe it had like it piqued your interest and now you have more questions. And like I said, we're back in March to do a full video and you guys will be able to experience it with us. So stay tuned for that. Thank you guys for coming and watching this video, and I'm excited. I'm very excited for the Star Cruiser, like especially after seeing what I've seen so far. It's exciting. It's unlike anything that I've ever seen or done before, and that's exciting to me. So, all in all, a fantastic day. And with that being said, we are off, and we'll see y'all tomorrow. And now it's time to pay the price.